Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani class vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa. Good morning. The news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Bedi and Glenora Shipura, ready to engage with the content. How are you, Glenora?
I'm doing very well. I've missed my brother from another mister.
It's good to see you. I've missed my sister too. Yes. My Arsenal sister.
Yes, Arsenal sister. Please let them know. Let them know. We won. Now, getting into what you can expect on today's show, huge protests in Niger call for French forces to leave after coup. Africa faces climate risk blind spot amid lack of weather radar. Airstrikes in Khartoum kills 20 civilians. We'll also be crossing over to Talengore in Zimbabwe. We'll be filling us in on the news, making waves there. And later on in the show, Ari Hohat will be bringing us the sports news. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
We start our top stories in South Africa. Now, over a year after being launched, only 11,025 people have downloaded a portal application that cost the Gauteng government 492,528 rand to develop. This was revealed by the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport in response to questions from News 24. The GDRT developed the Pothole Fix GP application in collaboration with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. GDRT spokesperson Lesiba Mpia said the app was meant to provide a more direct line of communication between citizens and road maintenance authorities. App users can report a pothole to a department dashboard which shares the location of the pothole with the relevant local road maintenance authority so that it can be repaired quickly. Now, Mpia claimed that the GDRT repairs 92% of the potholes that are reported on the app within 1 day of the pothole being reported. Where we are directly responsible, we have got to demonstrate that when someone reports a pothole, it will be tended to immediately, he said.
Huge protests in Niger call for French forces to leave after coup. Tens of thousands of protesters gathered outside a French military base in Niger's capital, Niamey, on Saturday, demanding that its troops leave in the wake of a military coup that has widespread popular support, but which Paris refuses to recognize. The July 26 coup, one of 8 in West and Central Africa since 2020, has sucked in global powers concerned about a shift to military rule across the region. Most impacted is France, whose influence over its former colonies has waned in West Africa in recent years, just as popular vitriol has grown. Its forces have been kicked out of neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso since coups in those countries, reducing its role in a region-wide fight against deadly Islamist insurgencies. Anti-French sentiment has risen in Niger since the coup, but soared further last week when France ignored the junta's order for its ambassador Sylvain Ite to leave. Police have been instructed to expel him, the junta said. Outside the military base on Saturday, protesters slit the throat of a goat dressed in French colors and carried coffins draped in French flags as a line of Nigerian soldiers looked on.
Now, the first Africa Climate Summit opens on Monday in Kenya to highlight the continent that will suffer the most from the climate change while contributing least. Significant investment in Africa's adaptation to climate change, including better forecasting, will be an urgent goal at the September 5 to 6 meeting. At the heart of every issue on the agenda, from energy to agriculture, is the lack of data collection that drives decisions as crucial as when to plant and when to flee. The African continent is larger than China, India, and the United States combined. Yet Africa has just 37 radar facilities for tracking weather, an essential tool along with satellite data and surface monitoring, according to a World Meteorological Organization database. Europe has 345 radar facilities, North America 291. The continent at large is in a climate risk blind spot, said Asaf Chakor, a researcher at the Center for Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge.
Now, airstrikes in Khartoum kills 20 civilians. Residents of Khartoum awoke on Sunday to artillery and rocket fire hours after an airstrike in the city's south killed at least 20 civilians, including 2 children, according to Sudanese activists. The death toll from the aerial bombardment in southern Khartoum has risen to 20 civilian fatalities, according to a statement by the neighborhood's resistance committee. They are among many volunteer groups that used to organize pro-democracy demonstrations and now provide assistance to families caught in the crossfire between the army and paramilitary fighters. In an earlier statement, they said the victims included 2 children and warned that more fatalities went unrecorded as their bodies could not be moved to the hospital because they were severely burned or torn to pieces in the bombing.
Now, Israel is considering tough steps, including the immediate deportation of Eritrean asylum seekers involved in riots in Tel Aviv on Saturday. Some 170 people were injured in violent clashes with police and infighting between groups of supporters and opponents of the Eritrean regime. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a red line had been crossed. He also ordered a new plan to remove all African migrants that he described as illegal infiltrators. Saturday's unprecedented disorder began after activists opposed to the Eritrean government said that they had asked Israeli authorities to cancel an event organized by their country's embassy. Very interesting to see those words from Netanyahu, particularly considering Israel's involvement in apartheid. Stay with Africa Good Morning as we talk to Talent Gore in Zimbabwe after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
All right, we're going to be talking to Talent Gore in the House of Stone. Our first story is the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe has issued a warning. Talent, could you please expand on this? Wamkase.
Africa. So the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe has warned that those operating unlicensed postal and telecommunication services will be punished by the country's law. The warning follows revelations by United States-based political activist Freeman Chari that he has set up communication devices in 72 mountains across the country. Well, apparently Freeman Chari said this when he was actually telling people how they managed to get information during the election period, whereby they were saying that they had their agents who were actually communicating. So he said that they had set up 72 communication devices on mountains, and this is not allowed in Zimbabwe. So everyone who wants to set up a certain device has to be regularized by the postal and telecommunication services. So the Portra's Director General Machengete said only local licensed operators are permitted by the authority to distribute satellite-based internet services if their virtual network operator agreements have been approved by the regulating authority. So they are sending this warning to Freeman Chari in particular, because this is the one who actually set up communication devices in the country without the knowledge of the Postal and Telecommunications Organization.
Now, in your next story, in some rather sad news, Zimbabwe's cricket legend Airstrike dies, aged 49, the wife announced. What happened?
Yes, apparently the former Zimbabwe cricket captain and the nation's all-time leading wicket taker Airstrike has died. He died in the early hours of yesterday, and he was battling colon cancer. He was also 49 years old. So in a tweet tweeted by his wife, she said, in the early hours of this morning, Sunday 3 September, the greatest love of my life and the father of my beautiful children was carried to be with the angels from his home, where he wished to spend his last days surrounded by his family and close loved ones. Apparently, he was also seeking treatment in Johannesburg, but he was back in the country. And last week, there's false news that circulated on social media saying that he had died. And the family came out and said that no, he was still alive. And just yesterday, that is when he actually passed away. And he was 49 years old. He's the all-wicket and all-rounder of Zimbabwe, and he was so loved by many. And we wish him, may his soul rest in peace.
Indeed, rest in peace, Heath Streak, not just a hero, forever our captain. Now, in the last of your stories, it seems like the CCC is throwing in the white flag. Tell us more.
Yes, the Citizens Coalition for Change had said that they were going to court to actually challenge President Emerson Mnangagwa's re-election, but the Coalition for Change on Saturday abandoned its plan to file a court challenge to President Emerson Mnangagwa's re-election, raising concerns over biased judges. Apparently today, Monday, 4 September, is the inauguration day of President Emerson Mnangagwa, and that the Citizens Coalition for Change had said that they were going to court on Saturday to file a court challenge. And they have since abandoned that plan, saying that the courts are manned by corrupt and biased judges who are just going to rule in favor of President Emerson Mnangagwa. The party is instead vowing to mount protests and also ramp up diplomatic pressure on Mnangagwa, who is entering his second and final 5-year term. The government said Mnangagwa would be inaugurated today, with at least 2 presidents from South Africa and Mozambique expected to attend, according to government spokesperson Nick Mangwana. When the court becomes so predictable in this bias that citizens feel no need to approach it for remedy, the court must begin to ask itself questions. This was said by the CCC spokesperson Promise Mukwananzi, who said that they are no longer going to the court because the courts are biased and they are just going to rule in favor of President Emerson Mnangagwa. Rather, they are going to put pressure on the diplomatic ties that they have. They are also going to mount their pressure on the SADC report, which was released, which says that the August 23 was not clear, as there were some challenges which faced the election days. So they are saying that they are going to put pressure on there. But as of now, the inauguration is going ahead today, and also we're going to see President Cyril Ramaphosa and the President of Mozambique coming in for the inauguration. We're not really sure as to how many presidents are going to come for the inauguration, but as far as we know right now, only 2 presidents have confirmed their attendance.
Well, I have a feeling Hakainde Chilema won't be there. I don't know why. Thank you very much, Silent Korea, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
So it's good having you on Africa Good Morning. Let's head to the weather. Let's get into the economic news. Starting in South Africa, opposition parties in eThekwini are raging that the ANC, supported by IFP, has increased Mbele's 2.6 billion rand annual salary by 1.3 million. The pay rise comes at a time when ratepayers are livid about service delivery failures and some are involved in a municipal rates boycott. The salaries of municipal managers are graded and determined by various factors. These include a city's population, number of employees, equitable share of revenue from the national government, and municipal income. A report in May 2022 compared the salaries of municipal managers, with Ekurhuleni and eThekwini, Johannesburg and Cape Town having the best paid officials.
Now the government is set to borrow 26.6 billion kwacha through the Malawi Stock Exchange following the issuance of a 10-year treasury note on the debt platform on Tuesday. However, the results of the initial bids on the day indicate that the government was able to raise 7 billion kwacha from 5 successful bids out of 11. The treasury note will be serviced at a 15% coupon rate at the end of the 10 years. However, the weighted average of successful yields was recorded at 32.83%.
Stay with us as we head into the economic indicators, and then we return with the sport. So it's no secret that Manchester United is not one of my favorite teams, you know. And sometimes I feel like it's backed by fact. You know, you lose 7-0 at Anfield. That's something I might remember. We beat you at home. You've only beaten Arsenal at home 4 times in the last 15 years. That's something I might remember. So naturally, heading into this weekend, everyone kept wondering what my reaction would be on Monday if Arsenal lost. I guess we'll never know. Ari Hogad, please give us a sport.
Yes, best intro ever. Morning, everyone. Morning, Glenora. Nice to talk to you as well. Yes, big news that from late last night or yesterday. It was the late game in the English Premier League. Arsenal beating Manchester United at home by 3-1. Impressive performance there, especially by Declan Rice scoring the winner in the 90th minute plus 6 minutes. And then there was another goal in the 11th minute of injury time to make it 3-1. That keeps Arsenal within 2 points of Manchester City. Manchester City, the defending champions, still the team to beat in this year's English Premier League. They've won 5 in action, and it was again Man City beating Fulham 5-1 at home. And they've got the 12 points, full value for 4 games winning. Arsenal on 10, and then also a few teams, the 3 teams on 10 points. It's Liverpool keeping in touch, beating Aston Villa by 3-0. And then Tottenham Hotspur show that there's life after Harry Kane. They beat Burnley by 5-2, and that is Son scoring 3 goals. So that's the English Premier League for the weekend. Lots of excitement there. Moving on to the Formula One racing, it was the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, and it was again Max Verstappen, the same old. We continue to have the same script for this one. It's the 10th consecutive win for Max Verstappen, and that's unprecedented. He's now the only racer to have won 10 consecutive. He was sharing that 9 wins with Sebastian Vettel, and in second place Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz He from Ferrari. He was quite good in his Ferrari. He battled for many laps, keeping Max Verstappen behind him, but third in the end. US Open tennis, it's week 2 coming up this week. Exciting tennis, the massive stadium there in Flushing Meadows in New York. Big news coming in from last night. Iga Swiatek, number 1 seed in the women's side of the draw. She lost to Jelena Ostapenko of Latvia. The score 3-6, 6-3 and 6-1. That's Coco Gauff and also Pazula. Some of the favorites now to go through. Coco Gauff in the round of 16. And on the men's side, Novak Djokovic also winning round of 16 game. That's Carlos Alcaraz, and he'll also play his round of 16 game later today. Then closing off with cricket news, 2 international T20 series is placed. That's South Africa playing against Australia. Great victory for Australia. South Africa don't look in form at all. Australia winning 3-0 the series. So the last game they won by 5 wickets. And then also there was a series played in England. It's England hosting New Zealand. New Zealand won the third one by 74 runs. England leading 2-1 in that series. 4 T20 games being played there and in England. And then just to close off, just my condolences with Heath Streak, the very well-known Zimbabwe fast bowler, passed away from cancer, sadly, tragically, over the weekend. Just condolences. I salute, definitely, Zimbabwe's best fast bowler ever. So rest in peace, Heath Streak. That's the international sports news for today. I hope you have a great sport week, and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for those condolences, Ari. The cricket world and indeed Zimbabwe mourns together. Stay with us as we head into the highlights after the break.
Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Dutchman stays in List A in his speech, the rate in taxes, and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
economic indicators, tomorrow's weather and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweo.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhom.na.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning throughout the broadcast. Let's get into the highlights. Gauteng government spent 490,000 building a pothole app that has only been downloaded by 11,000 times. Huge protests in Niger call for French forces to leave after coup. Africa faces climate risk blind spot amid lack of weather radar. And eThekwini upgrades Metro boss's salary by 66% in less than a year as city falls further.
Thank you for joining us this Monday morning. And with that, we've come to the end of our broadcast. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Orashipura.
And Ashwin Berry, 3-1 always sounds good. Sweresh Jakanaka.